Hello and welcome to our wrap-up video for CES 2015. It's certainly been an interesting tournament. I'm Patrick Goss, I'm the Global Editor-in-Chief for TechRadar.
I'm Mark Chaxfield, I'm the Content Team Lead for TechRadar UK.
I'm Joe Osborne, I'm Senior Editor for TechRadar US.
I'm Matt Swider, I'm Editor of Mobile Devices.
So it's, like I say, it's been a really interesting tournament. There's been some good bits, there's been some bad bits. What have been your particular highlights? Matt, I'll start with you.
I really like the LG G Flex 2. It's a curved smartphone. LG is getting it right this time. It's basically a specs bump. The screen is finally 1080p. It's full HD, and it's an interesting idea. And I just like the fact that they're taking chances.
Because that was one of the bad bits, right? It was a lovely phone, but it had a really poor screen for its size.
It was too big as well, wasn't it?
Right.
The original was far too big.
It was 720p originally, the first one, and 6 inches. Now it's 5.5 inches and 1080p, so the pixel quality, it's very dense, and I like that.
But the curved aspect of it, is it not just LG going, look, we can do OLED, we can curve this technology, or do you think there's an actual reason for it to be curved?
And it may be that, but at least it's changing, and it's something different in the smartphone category that kind of seems like it's being overshadowed by wearables.
I mean, Joe, you've done a lot of walking this week. You've seen some various good. Did you get to the show floor at all?
Once, and I saw the, well, it's not new, but I saw the Virtuix Omni directional treadmill with Oculus Rift. That was a lot of fun. It was using SDK2, so it wasn't quite as high fidelity, as Crescent Bay, which is behind closed doors. But walking was kind of like ice skating, so that was interesting.
Did it give more more reality to the virtual reality, but able
absolutely.
to actually move around?
Yeah, it took a few minutes to get used to it, and then I completely forgot that everyone was watching me. So that was great. But I've seen a lot of computing stuff this week, and there's a surprising amount of stuff going on in laptops right now. For instance, like the Lenovo Levy Z, built by NEC in Japan and branded by Lenovo in the US. Yeah. It's 1.27 pounds, which is crazy. And it's because they're using this magnesium lithium alloy that apparently has been around since the 60s, I was told, by a Lenovo rep. However, the battery is really tiny. It's like 29.6 watt hours. So they're quoting it at 6 hours of battery life.
Wow.
And it's one thing to have the lightest laptop in the world, right? Which is great. And I wouldn't be surprised if Lenovo's rivals adopt these materials in the next couple of years. But it's tough to have something so thin and light if it doesn't last all day.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of defies the point of having a laptop, right? If you're constantly worrying about being able to use it, then it just becomes a slightly lighter brick in your bag that you can't use.
Right.
Yeah.
From my perspective, my favourite thing was the LG 4K OLED flexible screen, which is ludicrous, absolutely ludicrous. Nobody will buy one because they're going to be ridiculously expensive. Yeah. But I kind of like that at CES. It's nice because it's this tech's not really for now. The flexible stuff, I'd just spend my whole time worrying about those middle OLEDs breaking when they were constantly being flexed. Right. But you imagine the kids flexing it in and out. But actually, I mean, the picture was just beautiful. And I always find at these shows that the TVs are a joy to behold because obviously they're huge and they're bright and they're colourful, and I think that OLED coming to the mainstream is a really, really big deal. I mean, the problem is they've been talking about OLED for so long, I think we've all just got a bit bored of it. Yeah. But this is finally OLED that we can actually afford at panel sizes that we actually want. So suddenly, TVs are exciting again, and
it was one of the biggest talking points. So the whole idea was that LG had OLED, Samsung were doing OLED a few years ago, Sony was doing it. Sony were the first people to actually release that 11-inch, I think it was like £11,000 or something, OLED TV. It was ridiculous. Sony are now out of the market, Samsung are now out of the market, it's only LG there. And they've got to say that OLED's affordable, because the biggest problem with OLED is it's not affordable. So they keep saying it's going to be affordable, it's going to be affordable. It's still way beyond a journalist's price tag. I'm sure there's some people that will be able to buy it, but it is still far too expensive, but they are bringing it down. And that is a real big thing. Yeah. But for TVs, I think, so they've got the OLED stuff, but the other, Samsung and others, are using pretty much quantum dot technology. Which is meant to be brighter than OLED, and they're pushing this really, really hard this year. So that's an interesting.
I would say one of my least favourite bits of the show is that every single TV manufacturer's stand had a comparison with the tech that they thought was worse than theirs, and they were basically like, you'd see some of the worst. Like, I've never seen televisions as bad as the ones they were using as their before TVs. It was like those horrible shots on like infomercials where like the before guy's clearly a different person with a huge belly, and then the after's like differently lit and like. So it was just like that, and I don't think that helps them, because actually, I don't think we're fooled by that. Certainly journalists aren't fooled, and I think I think sometimes I'd prefer like a proper comparison so I can make my own decision rather than having forced down my throat, because you just stop believing anything they say at that point. So I think for next year it'd be really nice if they scaled down those kind of crappy comparisons and brought some slightly nicer ones.
So Matt, this is meant to be the year for wearables. Do you think it felt like that at CES this year?
A little bit, but yet we don't have the big players here. We don't have Google actually here. We don't have Apple and their Apple Watch, formerly the iWatch.
Yeah.
But we did see an LG watch that was it was kind of teased running WebOS. So we'll see what that brings. We'll see.
So that's interesting, because then they're using WebOS, which is on their TVs, and then you've got Samsung that are using Tizen, which is on their TVs as well. So it's kind of these operating systems are not just going into the TVs, they're going into the wearable tech.
Right. What's going to happen to Google? Are they going to fall off a little bit?
Yeah.
Do we feel like this might be the beginning of the end for Android? I mean, controversial maybe, certainly not in phones. It's got a long way to fall, but Android is maybe not going to be the platform for everything that we thought it was going to be.
Well, Google making it open is amazing. So Android being an open platform, everyone can use that. That's great. But Samsung and LG don't make any money off of it, and they've got to go to a lot of restrictions that Google want to do. So they've got to put a certain amount of stuff on their phones that is Google and things like that. So you can see why they're trying to go away from it. But I don't know. I think Tizen's a harder sell. I think WebOS is beautiful, but it's a harder sell, especially phones.
Like you said, with the restrictions, Android Wear is very limited, and they can't make many changes, unlike they did with Android phones. But at the same time, Google knows everything about us. It's so smart with Google Now. So I don't know if that software will eventually become that.
And I think we think like journalists, we kind of know all these different things. We try them, we look at quality, we look at things. But actually, for most consumers, they look at the tellies in the store. They see that it's got Android. They think my phone's Android. I'll get the one that matches my phone, because then I can do stuff on my phone and my telly. And they're right to think that. And that's probably going to be a big selling point for them, rather than WebOS on the telly doesn't mean as much to them. They're not as involved in the whole industry as we are. So it'd be interesting to see how that kind of breaks down.
And with that, it's all about your friends too. Like if you have friends over, you want your Android TV or your in-dash car system to work with everybody's phone that comes over. Yeah. You don't want something that's not going to work, that's WebOS, that is only working with your LG phone or your Samsung Tizen.
So that's interesting with that. With multi-room audio, so you've got Sonos at the top of the game at the moment. LG have got their new multi-room audio system set up here, Sony have got it, and they're all very open, so you can just add speakers when you want. Do you think this could be the end for Sonos, really?
I don't know if it's going to be the end for Sonos. I mean, I think it's just going to give consumers more choice, right? I mean, I don't think it's going to be the end of them necessarily.
I think it's going to squeeze their market, because I think you've got people like Philips and pushing up from the bottom end. Right. They do the really cheap stuff. They're renowned for doing sort of decent level cheap stuff, and they're going to be pushing up into that Sonos market. And then you've got people like Samsung and LG beginning to push in with some of their speakers, of some of the interesting stuff. Right. I don't know if you did you guys see the Samsung speaker, the omnidirectional speaker?
I did. Yeah.
So it looked like a lot like one of the turrets in Portal.
Yeah,
but one of the really interesting things is, I think what will happen is it will squeeze Sonos, because you've got people like Philips filling out the bottom of the market. They're renowned for doing sort of slightly cheaper stuff, but without losing all the quality. They're going to start to push up in terms of quality, I think. And then from the top end, you've got those big manufacturers. So one of my things I thought was very interesting was the omnidirectional speaker from Samsung, which looks a lot like one of the turrets in Portal. But like they were putting in a stand, which made me think, because no one's going to put that in the middle of their living room, or but actually some of them were hung from the ceiling. They look like lampshades, and I was thinking all they got to do is combine that with a smart bulb or smart lighting, and that's a brilliant place to have an omnidirectional speaker in your room, right? Where your light is, if that works well, down, that would be amazing. And then a couple of satellites. I just think that was one of the things that maybe it's not there yet, but it felt like that was a step in the right direction for me.
And every brilliant feature that they come out with, or every brilliant gadget they come out with, you're kind of buying into that ecosystem, and that's what Apple and Google have done really well. Yeah. But if Samsung can come out with something like that, you try out and then you start buying one piece at a time. That's it. That's part of the pie that they're trying to explore.
I think Sonos is an absolutely amazing brand. What they've done is bring brought multi-room audio to the mainstream. But I do think we'll start seeing these companies chip away at that, and it's always a good thing, because it means that someone will look at that and go, we need to up our game, and we need to do something, and they'll probably release something absolutely awesome next year.
So what was the most ludicrous thing, good or bad, that you saw at the show?
I saw this was just quite funny. So we went to the North Stand, which is all pretty much where the car manufacturers are and things like that. We saw on the back of a massive Jeep a big audio system. It had about 40 speakers. I think the company was Orion, I'm not sure, but there was a guy in the back. He was getting a bit cocky, and he was like, "Yeah, turn it up. We really want to hear it. We really want to hear it." So they turned it up. And there was about 10 of us just about where you are now, and the speakers were there. We're like, this is okay. When the bass hit, the guy I was with's got long hair, and his hair went back. It was properly like shuddered like that. So that, I'm not sure what the clarity of that was like, but just seeing that, and then that's the whole thing about CES, that it is glitzy. You see some of this technology, you just go, never going to come to market, but it's amazing.
Yeah.
I would say the craziest thing I've seen a couple crazy things. I've definitely been walking around, so I got a good vantage point of all the bizarre things at CES. Saying, "Okay, Google, start my car," and actually, having that start somebody's car.
You realise that someone in the car park now is going to wonder why their car just started.
Right. I'm sorry in advance, but that was really interesting. It's something that, it's a spin on the Blue Link technology that Hyundai has had, and also, Android Wear and Apple CarPlay. That's great. They're fitting these into the in-dash systems, but something like that will kind of draw people to that car maker. And you have different things like I went to Oral-B's presentation for a Bluetooth linked toothbrush. And you can brush your teeth and kind of send your stats to your dentist and things like that.
But what are those stats for?
It's like every wearable, you have too much information, but you try to make sense of it, and you try to get streaks, and you can earn badges. It's a little ridiculous, but
it's not a little ridiculous. It's just ridiculous.
But it shows how vast CES is, that people like Oral-B are here showing off technology in a toothbrush. It's just crazy. It's madness. Yeah.
But I don't think that the IoT Internet of Things stuff is that crazy. I think we're really close.
Are we still calling it that? Because everyone was calling it Internet of Everything.
Right. I don't know.
It's like it's been rebadged and no one's noticed.
Yeah. I'm not sure what to call it anymore.
Well, I think Samsung buying Smart Things a few months ago, that was huge. And they didn't make, well, the keynote was there, so they had the CEO talking about internet and things like that. But I think next year we're going to see.
It's going to blow up big time.
Horrible name though, I hate it.
It is. But but if any brand, I think, is in a better position to take advantage of this, it's Samsung. Because they own, or they have a space in every portion of the market. Appliances, televisions, home audio, phones, tablets, what have you. That they can really rope people into.
My problem is I can see a day when my fridge is refusing to open because I've put on too much weight. That's when I get a bit scared. You start mixing with some of those clever stuff. My wife banning me from getting the chocolate out of the fridge.
Right.
I'm in trouble, right?
But then we saw some of those gimmicks with Samsung as well, when they had the dual washing machine, so you could have two washers at once and things like that. Then we had the dual oven from the dual oven was Samsung. LG did the dual washing machine. That it was fun, but it feels like it's stretching a little bit on some of these.
Yeah, when it gets to the point of where it's syncing your task with your refrigerator and saying, no, your New Year's resolution said no more chocolate or no more cake in that refrigerator, then they've gone a little too far.
Right.
But I'm really interested in what happens with Google once Samsung gets all these things. Google has bought Nest, and they have Dropcam and different home appliances. Does that kind of sideline Google a little bit? Do they come back in?
Well, they've opened Nest up. That's the interesting thing. So Nest is now Philips Hue light bulbs now work with Nest, and things like they've got to do that, haven't they? They've got to make it feel like it's an open platform, so that the Internet of Things works. Nest is your centre.
I think the last decade has shown companies that are too proprietary that they suffer. And I think that's where Google and Android were so successful, is because they played so nicely with most of our stuff. And things like the Kindle app. I know it sounds like it's stupid, but everyone had the Kindle app. But it works on everything. It was completely platform agnostic. And that made, you didn't have to buy a Kindle to have the Kindle app, and that made everything work so much better. And I think people love that so much. And I think finally we're getting to the end of that proprietary, let's only make our own stuff, work with our own stuff kind of idea, because it's just crazy and it stops me buying that stuff. So I think they're beginning to learn that lesson.
I refused to buy iBooks for that very reason. I wanted to have it on the computer. It wasn't on the computer for the longest time, and now it's still not on other platforms.
Right.
Yeah.
Who do you think won CES this year?
Who won CES? Well, Samsung certainly had the most stuff, but who won CES? I don't know. I mean, I think, the LG 4K flexible OLED won our Best in Show award.
I think for me, it feels like LG. And that was the first press conference, so it's quite interesting. The first press conference, 8 o'clock in the morning, we're all quite tired. But then we perked up when we saw the OLED and things like that. And I don't think it was better throughout the show. It didn't feel that way anyway.
I firmly believe that LG was the big winner in this tournament. I think I don't know why I keep calling it a tournament, but hey, you know what I mean? I think LG came out, and what they did, which I thought was brilliant, is they didn't feel like they needed to go over the top about it. They were so confident that OLED is the best technology, so confident. They didn't make a big fuss about it. They just said, come and see it yourself. Everyone did, and everyone loved it. And I think they came across as confident. They know they're in a good place in the TV market, and I just feel like everyone else is going to be struggling to catch up a little bit.
And that price is coming down just ever so slightly every couple months.
Yeah.
When I was at an event recently, and I saw somebody buy the first OLED that was being sold as a 4K in Santa Monica, and the first guy who bought it said, I need another place for my a TV for my beach place. That's the type of consumer now, but eventually it'll trickle down and reach those average consumers, and every couple months the price is coming down.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I guess it's a wrap on CES 2015,
Thank goodness.
and we can all finally go home and sleep in our own beds,
Yep.
and start 2015 fresh.
What is sleep? I don't even know what that is.
It's a
anymore.
foreign
too long.
concept at this
Yeah.
point, isn't it?
Yeah, so to check out all of our hands-ons and news and analysis from CES 2015, check out techradar.com/CES.